Good evening, and welcome to today's episode of Up Late with Sayad Marshall. It's 9 o'clock on Thursday, but it's a kind of Thursday where this program is going to be a different one. As you know, over the weekend on Sunday, Hurricane Beryl, a Category 4 hurricane, something unlike anything we've witnessed in a very long time, passed over St. Vincent and the Grenadines, primarily or more so the southern part of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the northern part of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. And what was left would bring water to your eyes. This evening, we discuss devastation, destruction, but resilience and rebuilding. This program, Uplifts with Sian Marshall, begins right now.
And some came out today on the fast ferry and view of Canawan, Nairo and Union Island from the air. And Union Island, of course, is the most devastating spectacle. Of course, Nairo is very bad too, and so too is Canawan and Palm Island. But Union is a field of devastation. There's only the odd building that is not severely damaged or destroyed. The roofs of all these buildings are gone. The building of the terminal of the airport, the roof is gone and the building itself compromised. The hospital, other state facilities, the schools. There is a sense of shock among people, yet at the same time, a determination to rebuild. Some, of course, in the interim, many would like to leave, and some came out today on the fast ferry and also on the Equi Express. I'd ask that they take out persons. We're going to build it back. We're going to build it back better and stronger. We're going to turn this terrible setback into an advance. Some people, of course, a significant number of people say they're not going anywhere, just staying here. They build it back here. I met a woman and two of her children and said that, go away, I'm not going anywhere, I'm building back here. So that there's a mixed set of responses. There are a couple of people said it's too much for their psychological makeup. There's a lot of trauma on the faces of men, women and children are strained and anxious. It's an extraordinarily difficult time. We have to clean up. Tomorrow I'll send back vessels again to transport persons out and to bring more supplies. But everywhere I go, I'm optimistic with people about building back. They say we're almost near universal. They say we're dependent on you. We're relying on you. And the isolation complicates the problem. But we have to get the cleanup going, and we have to begin to mobilize the builders. We have to put tents for people to stay in while they do the construction, and it is going to demand a lot of resources. Building back here is huge, and if you notice, most of the houses are big houses. People had spent a lot of money on building these houses, both had in different walks of life, different professions, occupations, and within a 45-minute period, an hour, it's gone. It is a huge challenge demanding solidarity from all our people and from our allies in the region and in the international community. But I'm sure that we will get there. We will rebuild, and we will rebuild stronger, more resilient, sustainable development. That's what we aim for.
Now, that was a video of Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, touring ground zero, as it were, Union Island, one of our islands in the Southern Grenadines that was devastated. And I don't know if there's another word that can be used appropriately to describe what we just saw, but just everywhere you look was just devastation on Union Island. Tonight we have a special guest with us. He is a son of the soil of Union Island. He is someone who holds Union Island and the Southern Grenadines at large, the Grenadines, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. As a matter of fact, he is my personal friend and a good comrade to me, who's been good to me personally. And he's the first person I heard use the phrase, the unitary state of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, something he says all the time. He was appointed senator in the House of Assembly back in 2001, and I still refer to him as senator. As a matter of fact, I read somewhere that by convention, titles like senator and ambassador stays with you for a lifetime. I could be wrong, but I'm sure I read that somewhere. He's currently the director of Grenadines Affairs, but as I said, before he was director, he was a Union Island boy, and long after he's director, he would still be a Union Island man. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Uplift with Sion Marshall, or Comrade Snagg. Comrade Snagg, good night.
Good night, Sion. And under these circumstances, it is indeed a pleasure to be able to be on your program. We have done this sort of thing before,
We have.
um, but not under these sort of circumstances. Um, this is a very unusual time, uh, uh, a painful one. Um, but besides the pain, despite the devastation that we would have seen in the Grenadines, um, that took place on Monday, we still have to have a certain level of optimism, and we still have to have a certain amount of hope. I think that the people of the Grenadines are a very resilient people. We have been born out of the bowels of struggle. Um, and I think that we will rise. We will rise. And I think that in the early part of your program, where you had the introduction of Prime Minister Gonzalez on his visit, particularly to Union Island, because he did a flyover Canawan and Mayo and so on, and then eventually touched the soil in Union Island where there is the most amount of devastation. He says that we will rebuild, and when we rebuild, we must rebuild better than it was before. But he also made a statement, and it says that he the faces of men and women are strained and anxious. And one has to understand that, because this is a level of devastation that has never been seen before. We have we have witnessed that in the Caribbean, particularly with Ivan in Grenada in 2004. But we are not, as a people, we have not had a major hurricane to do this sort of damage, um, from since the time of 1955, of the memorable Janet.
Well,
Um,
that is what I wanted to start with. I wanted to start with your own
uh,
experience, being a resident of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. If you've ever seen this level of destruction before, if you've ever experienced it. I mean, we've seen what happened in Bahamas the other day. We saw what happened in Dominica the other day with Antigua and Barbuda. I mean, we've seen Grenada. So we've seen, then you remember years ago Hurricane Gilbert mash up Jamaica. So we've seen our neighbors get touched in a very destructive way. We've had our little, we've had the Thomas, we had the the December 23 floods, which, by the way, while you didn't lose house roofs and so forth, the level of infrastructure development in terms of bridges and so on was significant. But in terms of hurricane destruction, where roofs were lost and houses were blown down, just in preparation for the program, I saw a video which apparently was recorded by someone from Vinlek, where the gate, the metal gate, sliding gate, was blown off of the building completely. Have you ever witnessed this level of devastation before?
oh, certainly not. And certainly no Vincentian has ever witnessed that level of devastation, because we've never had it. We've never had it. And even though we would have seen it taking place with our neighbors before, yet still there is always that feeling that, well, it ain't gonna happen to us, because we have been spared so many times from the wrath of the devastating hurricanes that have passed through the region. Um, but this one, this one as category 4. Somebody said that in their own estimation, if that is 4, they believe that it was a 4 that was pretty close up to 5. Because of the nature of what they saw. Because somebody said to me today that I saw the wind. He said I saw the wind, and he didn't say it in a metaphorical sense. He said it in a point. He said that it was actually something that he could have seen and see it moving. And there's some persons who described it that it was so frightening that it was like not a whistle, but it was something that was talking. I mean, there are some people who have been left extremely traumatic. Sion. It has traumatized many persons. And besides the physical devastation, there certainly will be need for some psychosocial sort of support and counseling and so on. But these are things that will certainly come into consideration, and things that the administration is extremely mindful of. Um, but but to be Sion, you're a man who know Union Island. You you
Yes,
you
yes,
you, ha- you
yes,
have been there,
yes.
and I I wasn't on island at the time of the because I had to attend the function on mainland and wasn't able to go back down on Sunday. And then there it is. Well, you are caught. And then Monday evening, when we heard of what was happening, and Tuesday morning you start seeing videos, and you're wondering exactly what has happened and so on and thing. I got in touch with PM Gonzalez, and he asked me to come up to the residence and so on and thing, and then to participate with a meeting at Nemo and so on. And you see videos, and you see pictures and so on and thing. But actually, when when I arrived with the MV, Jaden's son, and touched the wharf in Union Island and saw the level of devastation. It was unbelievable. And to be honest with you, I was just deeply saddened. And I was moved to tears.
I saw that.
And
I saw a video
I
of you embracing someone on the wharf and
yeah,
definitely moved to tears.
and then and there was my people who they come in to greet me, but they come in with their tears likewise. You
Of
understand? I
course, of
mean,
course, of course.
they come in with their tears, and well, I'm a grown man, so I don't have to ask anybody's permission to cry. You know what I mean? And there is no shame or no embarrassment because the level of emotion was that great. It's unbelievable because what I saw is that people's life work just snuffed out in an instant in 2 or 3 hours, and that was it. Because you would know that there were some very fine structures, you know,
Yes, yes.
and when I saw what happened with some of them, it's I see on words can't describe, and I would want to feel that I am fairly okay with the English language and trying to find descriptive words, as they call it in English, adjectives, you know what I mean, and superlatives and so on, but I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
find anything much to describe this thing, Stephen, except it's just horrific. It's words can't describe this, and I think it came out in the feeling of the people, because as I walked through Clifton and picked my way between house roof, between galvanized and lumber, and in some cases rubble and steel, and because it actually did that. I mean, walls were removed with the roof on it, you know, that sort of thing.
Mm,
And for instance, the Roman Catholic Church in Union Island is totally demolished. I mean, you know, I saw also the Roman Catholic Church in my row. That too is demolished. Rubble, you know. Um, it was a power pack. It was a power pack. But more than that is the pain and the agony of a people, you know, the
no,
pain and agony.
you've given a sense of Comrade Snag, of the destruction. You've talked about the Roman Catholic Church. You've talked about different buildings, but the government had just constructed a brand new school down there in Ashton. The government had just done some significant work on the doctor's quarters and so forth at the hospital. I was down there recently, as you know, when we opened the satellites warehouse and so forth. What is the level of destruction? We're doing it in partition, so I don't want anybody to feel like they're left out. But in terms of the government infrastructure, the national infrastructure, build us, because these are ultimately the shelters, so the schools, the hospitals, clinics. I noticed the airport. What is the level of destruction? What do we have left of those state infrastructure?
Well, Sion, to be honest with you, there is no state structure that has been left unscathed. Um, the roof of all schools, you know, are gone. The roof of the airport is gone. So is the doctor's quarters. So is the hospital. So is, I mean, it
Wow,
is
wow.
it is major. And then the temporary Mary Hutchinson school that was done, and students entered in um, September last year for the very first time, had barely completed one school year, you know. But the level of the Hurricane Beryl, nothing wooden could have withstand that, because it moved concrete and steel. You know,
Mm,
I mean, it just wrapped it up. It wrapped up everything. And so there was the very places that have been designated as shelters. You
Exactly.
know, they themselves have taken upon it.
So these
They
shelters
started
needed shelter.
the shelters needed shelter. And even the lone shelter that has thing is now totally inadequate, because that's the Learning Resource Center, which had its windows and so on shattered, and I know that those windows shattered. It just, and even though it had shutters, I mean,
Wow.
this thing was a force to be reckoned with. And to be honest, it brought us to our knees. It has brought us to our knees. Um,
What about what
so
about what about the in terms of the business aspect of it, the hotels? You have a
well,
few Carnage and so on. How did those fare?
they're all destroyed. They're all destroyed. And one would you would know well. We call it the Carnage. They are the waterfront where you have the hotels of Anchorage
Yes,
and
yes.
Bougainvillea and so on. And that those are all destroyed. Those are all destroyed. And
Wow.
and the destruction is destruction, not not just that you've had damage, because if you have damage, you can say, okay, we could quickly repair these and so on and thing. They require, in some instances, what is left is just there for demolition, you know, in many instances. And there is somebody gave a figure of about 98% of houses in Union Island have been destroyed, and I can't see the 2%. You know, I struggle. See on laugh, see on. I am struggling with the 2%, because when I don't see where the 2% is. So, and if you have a couple houses left, what I mean, it can't come up to 2%. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's probably going to be somewhere 0.00 something, percent. But the devastation, not only in Union Island, but it has taken place in Canawan and in Mayo, and of course, I mean, I know we'll have to do this in a structured way, but so much has happened since then, in terms of the response of the state
No, we'll get to the
administration.
response. We get to the response
And I guess
just now. Before we go to
we
the
gon
response,
we gonna get to that. So I
yes.
rely strictly on the host. I rely strictly on the
Yes,
host to,
yes. Because listen,
to
I
guide
know
me
you and I would
along.
have a conversation here because you're used to the media and speaking to the media. So I know this would flow very very well. Now I want to talk about the domestic situation though, because yes, the government has a responsibility to this for the state structures, the hospital, the schools. That's the government's responsibility. But no doubt, a number of our residents, and like you just said, more than 98% have had their homes either totally destroyed or damaged. What exactly did you get as their expectations going forward? Because let's be real. One would say um, insurance, for example. I'm just putting things out there, or savings. But you've talked to individuals. I reached out to a few people in Union Island, and I know what I got in terms of their expectations. But you were there, you were on the ground, you're the director of Grenadines Affairs. But more than that, these are your people who you know. You see them grow up. You grew up with them. What are their expectations going forward from the government, from the state of St. Vincent and the Grenadines?
Well, definitely, see on this. This is an instance where I can't put it in terms, and I don't want to go down into the line of percentages and so on and thing. But this is just the bare sentiment. Is that this level of of devastation and destruction is sometimes beyond the individual capacity, because what we see here is what you would consider people's life work. And there are structures which people have spent their life in building, their resources, their efforts, their labor, their little working capital, the little salaries, you know what I mean, and you build this over a period of time, and then it is not it is not going to be easy for some of these people to to recoup, to regroup, to deal with that without having significant input from the state. And we have to be honest. There will be certain persons who may have mortgages and have insurance probably covering, that sort of thing, and that's a horse of a different color. But I do not think that that is in the vast majority, because some of these structures have been built from from the penny bank. And when I say the penny bank, I say
Yes,
that in a
yes,
metaphorical
yes.
sense.
Of
In other
course.
words, you get a piece of money, you do a thing, you understand what
Right.
I mean, and
Yes.
you
Yes.
and so and
Yes.
it cannot be quantified. That you could just get up and just have that replaced. You understand? I mean, unless you have a significant input and assistance from, well, when I say the state machinery, I mean, the state will coordinate, well, international assistance and help and that sort of thing. But and you may find the small percentage that may be able from their own savings to probably go in and see if they could, and see if they could take. But in general, there is gross expectation on assistance from the state resources.
Okay. And that's fair enough. And I just wanted to
And
get that
and,
out.
and,
No.
and believe me, it's fair enough, because as I say, many of these structures and so on and thing have been put together from the penny bank model and the Susu model, and and that sort of thing, where you put away a little thing now. You put away a
Yes.
little thing, and
Of
you
course.
put on
Of
you put on
course.
a room. You know what I mean?
Of course.
And
Yes. Yes.
you do a thing. It's
Yes.
the grassroots model, from the
Yes.
grassroots model, and the grassroots model cannot cannot be easily replaced. You understand, by
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
grassroots man, by the
Yeah. You
grassroots
can't
man.
you can't mobilize that, as
You can't mobilize that
immediately
in
and
a
so on
one.
as you
In a
need to.
one,
Yeah.
you can't
Yeah.
mobilize
Yeah.
that in an instance, because you would have done it over a period of years. And
Yes.
then there are some persons who would have said that there are some houses that some may have been old and so on and things. For instance, I, in my own personal capacity, have one that was very old and so on and things. But regardless of how person's structure is a house.
Of course.
It's somebody's property, and somebody has ownership of it. And
Right.
particularly, as my father would say, is that in the midnight hour, when the rain falls, it shelters you.
Of course. Of
And the
course.
whole concept, and that whole concept, that is not easily replaced when it's not there. When it's not
Yes.
there, and it has to be dealt with in terms of people's means and their capacity to replace the very little thing that they have. You know,
Yes.
it's going to be
Now,
challenging. And then, of course, if the state has to assist, the state cannot look at what was there on the basis of its age or its look or how it was or whatever. The state will have to replace with something that that is reasonable. You know, um,
well,
I don't know if
something,
I pointed in
comrade.
a time.
Well, it has a point, comrade,
Yeah.
and I could put it this way, and we revisit this topic if time permits a little later on. But the truth is that
Mhm.
this government, since taking office, has assisted in terms of disasters, and in every instance, people have been restored to either their original or better positions. And we could talk about Cumberland, we can talk about Manning Village, we can talk about out at Orange Hill and so forth. The examples are there. So in
Yes.
terms of the level of assistance given by Vincentians, in restoring their livelihoods. We know how the government operates. The track record is there. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. People eating the pudding all across the country. So I just wanted to set that foundation, but I don't think there's any Vincentian. And we could talk about something offline that came to me, but I don't think there's any Vincentian alive who's questioning whether or not the state would restore them to an equal or better position in terms of the
Mhm.
assistance. But I wanted us to talk a little bit now about what is the situation in terms of now accommodation for the residents. So you have 99%, 99.5% and I'm using your estimates here because they can't find the two, of homes damaged, which means people need accommodation, people need to be sheltered. Where are the residents currently?
Now, now, see on the to put this in context, following the aftermath of the hurricane, um, people had to be sheltered.
Right.
Um, During the hurricane, there are persons who would have made it from their demolished structures. Many persons went into to downstairs and that sort of thing, and a downstairs with a little. Sometimes you have a little downstairs, a piece in the front now, and it was on the back. But you happen, but it hold about 50 people. You understand what I'm saying? Because
Yes.
in circumstances like these, the sheltering had no boundaries. You know what I mean? You just got to a door and just got inside.
Yes.
And people were just anxious because you see what it did is that it brought out the humanity. It brought out the
Absolutely.
humanity
Absolutely.
in the people. And despite whatever frivolities people may have, circumstances like these brings out the best in us. You know what I mean? There may be some worst scenario cases, and I want to deal into that avenue where it might bring out the worst in some. But in reality, in the majority of cases, it brought out the
Right.
best.
Right.
And what has happened is that the level of devastation was such that you think about way back in the days of Moses when he described what was taking place as an exodus. Because there is there is the faces of men and women are strained and anxious because they look down the road and they see that the road could be a long one, it could be a hard one, and men understand that there is need to roll up your shirt sleeves, um, and your resilience will be tested. Your faith in God too is also going to be tested. But evacuation for some is the only current way because particularly with women and children, because Sion, there is nothing to buy because there are no shops. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
what is left?
Literally.
The, the,
Yes.
the, the, the supplies has to be brought in. Food has to be brought in. Um, because some people which part the mattress is gone, which part your bed gone, which part your clothes gone. And there were many persons who who came up to mainland St. Vincent on Tuesday evening. I came up with the ferry because the evacuation process has started and said that all they have left is what they're wearing. Is what they're wearing. Because you can't find the balance. You know? You just don't know where it's going because it took up appliances and flew them, you know. It's just the thing is undescribable. So efforts are being made, and currently, and I could say this on your program and so on. I think for those who would probably be able to link it, and I hope this message goes on, is
Well,
that
I believe, I believe, I believe we're currently on Star Radio. So our comrades on Star Radio are hearing you. So let me welcome those
yeah,
individuals on Star Radio.
Okay, well, of course, I welcome those on Star, and I know that I know the outpouring that will come from the comrades, but once again, this is a matter of national importance,
Absolutely,
and it goes
absolutely,
across the boundaries, and this goes
absolutely,
across the boundaries because
absolutely.
this is an instance where the rain didn't fall on one man house top. You know what I mean? The rain wet everybody.
Everybody,
You know, the
everybody.
rain wet everybody across the board. Um, in fact, Beryl in itself was a great equalizer. You know, was a great equalizer, and I think it tested our resilience as and our camaraderie, our humanity, our love and friendship with each other as a people, and all that sort of thing. And I think too, I felt something, Sion, over the past couple of days and being on the ground there, is that there is that softening of relationship between people because we're in the same boat.
We in the
You,
same
you,
boat.
you,
We
I
in the
wonder if you're
same boat.
getting what I'm saying,
We in the same boat.
we're in the
We in the
same
same
boat.
boat.
We're in the same boat,
Absolutely,
you know what I
absolutely,
mean?
absolutely.
And I meet and I meet brethren, I meet people who says, well, we're gonna do it back, eh? We gonna build it back. And even though people who probably will not roll in the same circles and who don't have the same friends and the same associates, but they are all now friends and associates because
Absolutely,
we are in the same boat, you
absolutely.
know.
One of the things I want to point out for those listening, as someone I know of faith, this is remarkable. I was talking to Richard, my friend Richard, a few days ago, and he pointed out it has to be a miracle that in this level of devastation, we had zero deaths. I mean, when you look at what happened in Dominic and some of those other countries
Well,
where people
I
lost
think
their
Sion,
lives, he was
I think
spared.
I think Sion, that this is one area that I will have to counter you. Um, because I don't know how updated you are with relation to what has happened over the past couple of days, but there are some reports of about
Oh
four
wow!
deaths.
Well, I didn't get that. No,
I,
that's
I,
news to me.
and being here today, I want to offer. I want to. Well. There are sometimes when you're lost for words, you don't know. You offer your sympathy, you offer your condolences, and then because there are circumstances where I know a young man was slashed with galvanized, and he died on Tuesday evening,
Okay,
as a result. And there's reports of another individual who was covered under the rubble and subsequently died. And I heard of a third individual who got his neck slashed, and I understand that somebody else passed away today, um, from injuries sustained.
so
And
so so I guess that is the reason because in the immediate aftermath on Tuesday, that was made known at the time, and I guess now that things have
because
settled,
it didn't happen at
they've
the
come out.
time.
Yes, yes,
What
okay,
happened is that, but one instance, one that took place on Tuesday evening while we were on our way back up on the ferry, and many of the evacuees were going. Then you heard that this young man who was actually taken out with a helicopter, he actually passed away. He
oh,
actually passed away. He's a husband. He's a father. And today I had a conversation with his wife, and and all of us, all Vincentians, would extend their condolences to the family
absolutely.
and relatives of those who have passed. Um, Initially, in the aftermath on Monday evening, we were saying that we are so happy that there was no loss of life, and
Absolutely,
and
yes.
that's it. And we could and the rest is the physical structure could always be replaced and rebuilt. Um, but we have had a deep burning sorrow from loss of life. So So it's not only just the physical destruction, but it's the loss of life, the loss of life.
Now I
But
know,
I know
Comrade, that
that
a lot of the coordination will be done at the national level in
mhm,
terms of the
in terms of the
response,
response,
in terms of
in terms of
contributions, as it were.
contributions of the year.
But
Mhm.
what can you tell us
What can you
about
tell us about
those individuals
those
overseas, for
individuals
example,
for example,
who would love to
who would love to
contribute to the
contribute
building,
to
who would
the
love to
building, um,
send
and
different things
different
to assist
things that
some of the critical things
because
on Union Island right
unreliable
now
right
that
now
individuals can contribute to.
well, certainly, yeah, what we do have, there's always there's a Nemo team that is
Yes,
made up of local residents who who are engaged in the distribution of relief supplies and so on and thing, coming from the center and so on and thing. But we are, I think, as of the we are is establishing a cadre of individuals who are willing to make the sacrifice to 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 um to receive supplies directly, because we know that support is going to come from different avenues.
yes,
And there are instances where sometimes by the time it takes to go through what I go call the bureaucratic monopolization, you understand? I mean, it has to go here and then be sorted out and then to send and organize and then to get, because people need things now, you know what I mean?
right,
People need food now, and people need clothes now, and there are persons who are willing to do that. So we think that within the next day we have identified an individual who we would like to spearhead that particular type of operation, particularly from the local basis, and to have that link and that avenue where, like, say, persons in the diaspora who want to send something home. I mean, there are people who want to send something to St. Vincent to go to Nemo to be redistributed, and all that sort of thing, and would like to send something straight and direct and thing. And we gotta open the avenue. We gotta open the avenue. Um, I can't be specific in terms of the link or and that sort of thing current at this time. But certainly it could be worked on, because there's a team that is going down tomorrow by chartered plane to look at many aspects of, particularly the cleaning up and the removal of rubble and so on, because see on the rubble is so much more. You can't talk about recovery without removing the garbage, without
of
you know
course,
what I mean, the clearing of they have to go. And then the Union Island is only 4 square miles. We barely have any place to put the rubble, because this rubble is what were good houses and good
exactly.
structures over a period of many years, and then all of a sudden there are no rubble. So we don't have the capacity, what I mean, and we will rely heavily on the experts, the engineers, and what I mean, and all these other people to determine how best that we could dispose. What I mean, or the various things that we use. We may have to look at models. Well, not me certainly, because, but I'm talking about the persons who are so trained to
Yes, of
deal,
course.
with certain models. And somebody mentioned that Barbuda had to be, but recently with Antigua Barbuda and what
Yeah,
they had to do, and
yes,
it's a much smaller jurisdiction than Canada, Myra, and Union put together. But what was done in order to alleviate and remove these rubble, we don't know whether we had to ship it out. I don't know, but all of these are the challenges that
yes,
thing. And I dare say here too, Sion, because I see that we running on time already because both of these two people, both of these two people who could talk the thing now, who could talk the thing, um, because I've heard, you always hear some negative, sentiments and comments because some people believe that there's an opportunity for them to get their moments of glory and their moments
Of
of
course,
fame,
of course,
and
of
and
course.
and and, and, and they want to use this to song that what I mean, and there are some voices echoing, what I mean, whose contribution over the years is very little, it's basically nil. You understand what I'm saying? But save and accept this is an opportunity for them to think. But they must realize that government is not a mobby shop. And if something happens on late on Sunday evening, and then you have to wait on the clearance, you have to wait until you get information from the meteorologist that is safe
Of
now to
course.
and all of that, and you have to wait, and there are certain procedures and protocols that have to be followed, as I say, government is not a mobby shop that you could get up in the morning and say, all right, come, we're doing this. Is not that. Government has to sit and discuss and organize and put things and put the structures in place. You know what I mean? You will have your structures because Nemo has its protocols, but every disaster has its own peculiarity. One of the challenging one that we have here is that we are dealing with a multiplicity of islands. You can't just drive and go.
Yes, yes, yes.
Government don't own boats. I'm just pointing out some of the challenges. Government don't own boats. So government can't just say no. Government has to rely on the private owners who have
Private
boats and enter into discussions with them and arrangements. You understand, even for the purposes of evacuation. You
yes.
know, yeah. And
Well, I'll
government
tell you
don't
this.
own. Yeah.
I had a conversation with a comrade we both know,
Mm.
and when I reached out, comrade was saying, "Well, I'm waiting on the authority to be in." So I remember saying, "But it's early days yet. But if it's one thing you can be confident in is that the authorities are putting things in place and will be on the ground as soon as it's practicable." And
Practically possible.
the very next day, Dr. Guns, I was on the ground. I mean, you want the authorities to come, but then, like you said, there's a hurricane, the water is still rough, the airport is destroyed. So, how do they get there? So, you have to
But
look at all of those things. And
but
once
see,
it's practical and safe, they will get there.
on even the Grenadines Wharf, which was good on Monday evening, and which was actually destroyed after the hurricane. So Tuesday, so there are certain areas on the Grenadines Wharf that you'll be using to bring trucks on to load relief supplies that cannot use because the compromise took place below. I mean, these are challenges that if you don't know, you just think that, oh, they may be taking so long, they ain't do this yet and they ain't do that. And I think some people just want to see faces too, because some people are interested in optics. I mean, I am one of them people these your optics doesn't really comply here, it's practical, realistic action,
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
that's necessary, that an action that will bring results, you know. Now, let's say as director of Grenadines Affairs, I could, let me see if I could early Tuesday morning, even though the swell is still surging. Let me see if I could get to my room and let me see if I could walk to the kind of one for them to see me. Well, I don't want you to see me, because seeing me is really to tell me, oh God, snagging me house roof blow off. I don't know that already. You understand what I'm saying? I I have to be there to coordinate with Nemo to ensure that the necessary relief and the necessary things that are needed for your basic survival during this interim period here. You understand? Before tangible efforts and works are being done. Because you you have to cater for evacuation. And with that evacuation, you have to cater for shelters. You have to find shelters on mainland St. Vincent because hundreds of people needs to be sheltered, you know.
And the
And of
truth is,
course,
once you go there, you have to go there with answers. You can't go there to shrug your shoulders. So when you get there after they see you, they're going to be
yeah.
asking you questions. How are we moving? What is going to happen
Well,
next? Where are we to
after we
sleep?
hug up, after we
And
hug
you
up
have to
and
give
cry,
answers.
after we hug up and cry is what next? If you
Exactly.
understand what I'm saying.
Exactly.
You understand? So the thing about it is that the state administration and its officials have to be able to tell you something tangible and to put forward a plan of action. Otherwise it could be chaos. And there is nothing that breeds chaos like a disorganized approach, particularly to disaster relief.
Exactly. Exactly.
It has to be done in a structured manner. You know,
Now,
um,
is there yet, comrade, an interim or not interim necessary, but an initial assessment in terms of cost of the damage?
see only because because go be astronomical. I think we come up with a cost as yet, because
Okay.
and because there are so many factors to be brought into the cost, because the cost is not only the question of the physical structures, you know, that's only one part. For instance, the cost, for instance, for clearing, let's say for clearing, will run into serious millions of dollars. I know that from the contingency fund, I think yesterday at cabin they signed something was signed for at least $15 million on the ground for starters. For start, that's just and that's peanuts in the whole process. You understand what I mean? So that alone is going to be millions. You have to look at the various support levels and the mobilization, transportation, the heavy equipment, and and all that sort of thing. So it it will take, but I don't want to, because I am not an assessor, and one of the things I don't put on our shoes way too big for me, or where I ain't know about that can't fit me properly. You understand what I mean? But I know that it will take the assessor some time to come up with a realistic figure, because if you're looking, because Prime Minister Gonzalez has said that monies will have to be borrowed. This is not a time when you're getting grants at will all over the place, and you understand what I mean. I understand, and I dare say it here, that I understand that the United States has made a tangible contribution, the sum of 100,000 US. So monies are not easily given, from, you understand what I'm saying? So you may have to borrow. And if you have to borrow, and let us suppose you have to approach the various agencies, you must have a tangible figure. Because one of the things you want is to halfway, your figure must be reflective of all your costs, astronomical costs that will take place over the next couple of months too,
You raised something very important, Comrade Snag, the issue of the contingency fund. Now, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna let there, and it's coming back to your phone. Maybe if you can get the headphone, it might help. So people hearing us might be hearing the echo, because yeah. Um, Now, if you remember, and I'm talking policy here for those who are listening, so some people may not like this. But when the government introduced the idea of the contingency fund by the additional percentage point of the VAT, I remember the opposition going up and down the length of the country on the radio, referring to it as wicked, moderation, and all of those adjectives were used to describe what the government was doing, at the expense of really educating and informing Vincentians about the impact of what we were seeking to do. We were seeking to put a fund in place so that when things happen, there is something that we can dip into initially, immediately, even as we wait for other people to assist. And we've seen it used for COVID, we've
It
seen it
was it was
used for volcano, and now we're seeing it used in this situation.
no, yeah.
Imagine what would have been happening to us in these times of natural disaster if we didn't have the foresight and the vision of a government that decided to establish a contingency fund.
Well, in truth and in fact, see, on the government behave like granny, put something aside. Oh, I wonder if you're with me. The,
Yes,
the
yes.
government behave like granny. You understand what I mean? It's just that the government is operating a different way, and would take it in a particular way and have it stick somewhere in the consolidated fund or wherever sinking fund or something in order to think. But really, granny would have stick it under the mattress in her handkerchief. You understand what I'm saying, right? In a
Yes.
thing. But this is the purpose. Because there will come a time, and particularly in a country that is prone to disasters. And I think it's foresight and vision, because it ain't going nowhere, it's there for the use of the people. And we've
Absolutely.
come to the realization from COVID through the volcanic eruptions, now with Hurricane Beryl, that immediately that there
Immediately.
could be a drawdown from that
Yes.
contingency fund to assist the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I mean, um, but it's policy, and policies are made by sensible politicians. There's a difference, yeah.
You can't run from it. It doesn't matter how individuals would like to dance around it. The issue is, and the reality is, that the government years ago had the foresight and the vision to do something like this. And we've seen benefits in a very short space of time and multiple opportunities. You have to you have to recognize that what it is. Vision, foresight, and indeed good governance.
And good governance,
Yeah.
and see on me, I see, because you don't want to leak. But the thing about it is that this administration has always been, what I would say, the most transparent in modern history, with relation to the fact that since Tuesday, after Prime Minister Gonzalez made the thing, is that all the relevant agencies of government cabinet has been meeting every day, and pooling the ideas and the coordination of all the various entities in terms of health, agriculture, thing there's FinLec, there's, I mean, and even the mobilization in terms of, because as I say, the psychosocial aspect of it, I mean, and all of that. Um and it shows cohesion in good governance, because you can't have everybody doing their own thing and going off on a tangent. As I say, the worst thing that you could have during a national disaster is to have a lack of cohesion in terms of the approach, um, to resolving the issues that have to be dealt with at this time. And there must be sensible coordination, and here
Okay, I think we're having a little bit of an issue with connection
what
there with
I
yes.
yeah, if you have one phone call to make, who will you call? Well, we have seen time and time again who we call, what I
Yes.
mean, and who the
Yes.
people rely on for leadership in this
Yes.
particular situation, and yeah,
Now, comrade,
mhm,
I use the word fortunately in inverted commas because there's really nothing fortunate about the situation. But fortunately,
mhm,
we had come to the end of the school year, and graduation essentially had already happened. People had graduated from secondary and primary school. The CPA had been completed. I'm sure schools had completed their exams. The external exams were complete. But we have to look forward now to September. Now,
mhm.
this is not something you can speak to, I'm sure, immediately, but I just want to throw it out there for at least those who are listening to understand that we're now going to have to think about what happens to all of the students on Union Island and Myro and other places where the schools are destroyed. What is going to happen to them in September? Are they going to have to go to school on the mainland? And if so, they're going to be there for a long time. Accommodation for those students, their families, and so forth. I mean, these are all decisions. It is one thing for individuals to think, oh, where are the authorities? Why aren't they here yet? But while absolutely they're thinking of the now because my house is blown off. I need somewhere to sleep. I need to get dry. I need to take care of myself. There are decisions to be made that would impact their lives 2 months, 6 months, 10 months, a year and a half down the road.
Well, Sion, this is what governance is about, and this is what responsible governance is about, you know, because we've had destructions of even schools on mainland St. Vincent. Those schools will have to be repaired, and the period is short between now and the reopening of school. And then, as you say, what do I do with the children of the Grenadines? What when I say I mean what do we do with the children of the Grenadines? And as you mentioned, well, some will have to go to school on mainland St. Vincent, and that will require a different level of support. You understand what I'm saying, right? And this is not something that you could just put in a shack and shake. This requires significant thought and management, you know. And I mean, and all the factors coming here, the Ministry of Education will have a significant role to play here. Well, I want to talk about the Ministry of Finance because money is always the penny
The
is
world go
always
round.
bottom line, eh?
Yeah. Money makes the world go round. Absolutely.
Money,
Now,
money makes things happen.
as a matter of fact, I think I believe last year, the Canaan Secondary School had its first graduation
Graduation, yeah.
ceremony. So now chances are, they said, I'm not speaking too soon or too early because I'm not a part of the state administration, but we can start seeing students from Canaan, students residing on Union Island, being taken into schools in the school on Canaan, the school on Beckway, and like we said, the school on the mainland. There is going to be significant shifting. And you made the point earlier, Comrade Snag, about the psychosocial aspect of it. They are going to be taken from their families, from their homes, from their communities, from their classrooms, from their friends, in completely new environments. I mean, all of these are
Oh,
things
so,
that are going to happen as we look down the road. It is not just Hurricane Beryl pass and some houses were blown down. We've been talking about the fact that the implications to what has happened over the last couple of days are far and wide and
far
goes
reaching.
beyond simply going down for a photo up and making a post on social media because this is where you feel you have some relevance. I mean, these are serious decisions to be made.
Serious decisions to be made. And the thing about it, see, on an instance like these, you can't be too troubled in terms of social media because one of the things with social media, it allows everybody to be an expert and every I mean, people, everybody is an expert on social media, in whatever area or form they feel to make their comments in and so on and things. But those of who are involved in the issue of governance know that there are serious matters to be taken into consideration, and they can't be taken lightly, and then of course, as I say, there are always those who want to cause some dissension. Um, you know, they don't really alter the price of cocoa, but they just feel that the whole world listening to them because some people believe that everybody listening to their opinion. You understand what I mean, and they overestimate the relevance. You know what I mean? And they feel that their lyrics resonating in the sky. You understand, up in
Yes.
heaven. But the reality about it is that some of them is just babblers. It's just babblers because they don't facilitate anything tangible being done. They never have anyhow in the first place. I mean, I want to go there because I want to. I want to keep the sanity and seriousness of this piece of discussion we have in here. But sometimes the thing that are coming because I hear one or two of them, and even though I may not comment, I see certain posts, something, you understand, and I put it in brackets, and I put them in brackets, and you see, my God, you know what I mean? But but there we go. We live in the real world, and this is the beauty of our democracy. Um, Annie Musas had said, and it's one of the things I quote him on. He said, "Everybody free to talk. Himself, they have to talk foolishness."
And believe you me, a lot of foolishness is being spoken. I just say one thing before we end the program. We actually went to But I just say one more thing, and it takes me back to the late panel Campbell QC during the
Yeah.
COVID-19 pandemic, when he said, "I
He,
can
he
rest,
expressed it.
I can rest
Rest.
assured, I can sleep well at
See, I
night,
could see
knowing that
because I
Ralph
know.
and Labour are in charge of St. Vincent and the Grenadines." Do you think, comrade, and I'm going to ask you, this is a straight political question, and I always say, Uplift with Sion Marshall is my show, it's my thing. They say Labour thing, this is my thing. However, there is no question, and no one questions or wonders where I am in terms of my support. So even though ULP is not on my show, the, who I am and where my support lies is never in question. And so
But
I'll go straight
I
politics
just
on this.
want to say something else. So on, if you will give me that privilege to like, if I could make this appeal that to persons on mainland St. Vincent, if you have the capacity in any way at all to assist a brother or a sister or to assist a child, coming from the Grenadines at this time, I appeal for that sense of human compassion, I mean, to help, because it's like there's a cry for help coming from the Valley of Macedonia. Only this time it coming from down in the Grenadines. I mean, it coming from the bowels of our people. And I just want to make that those who could assist in any single way, any way at all, in any contribution, whether it be kind, whether it be food, whether it be whatever. I mean, I can't describe, because the list is so long, because there's a people away from home with nothing.
Mhm.
People away from home with nothing.
And
With
like you
nothing.
said,
Mm.
if you have the capacity to take in a family or take in members of a
Yeah,
family because you have an extra room or downstairs or whatever,
yeah,
I think there's no harm, but
we
now is
we
the time
we
for us
we,
to show
we
solidarity
appeal, we
and show the
appeal.
fact that we are really a God fearing people.
And,
But the
and
question I wanted
one
to
of the
put to
things
you
I always say is the unitary state
of
of
St.
St.
Vincent and
Vincent
the
and the
Grenadines,
Grenadines.
absolutely. The question I want to
Mhm.
put to you, Snaggy, is this straight off. Do you get this sense that residents in the Southern Grenadines, and specifically Union Island, where you're from, are confident in their government to assist them?
They know it. You ask me a question, I answer you, and I answer you with three short words. They know it. Despite wherever their political inclination and their historical actions over the years, they, deep down in the very bowels of their consciousness, they know that this is a government that will rise to the occasion to assist them in this time of need.
And that's important. It is important
And that's
because,
and that's
as Dr.
important.
Gonzalez said in his video, the video that we played at the beginning, while people's face are strained and
And
anxious,
anxious.
there is still this quiet optimism because they know we will rise.
Yeah.
They know we will build back. They know that the government
We
that
will
they
we
have
will rise.
will do everything in its power,
Yeah.
use every resource at its disposal to ensure that the lives of Vincentians are restored. Comrade, thank you so much for sharing tonight with us.
Try to make it normal as possible. Thank you, my brother, and it's a pleasure having and being here with you. You know what I mean, and having this dialogue.
It's,
I really.
it's always a pleasure interacting with you, comrade. You and I go way back. We have a good relationship, a good personal friendship,
Appreciate.
and I really appreciate the fact
I
that you
see on
stayed up with us.
as I'm here, while we having this conversation, I'm seeing some calls coming in from the PS Social Development and from Miss Forbes at Nemo. So soon as I'm off with you, I will.
Yes, yes. All right. So go handle your business, comrade. Yeah, I think the calls are coming in and cutting the thing there. So that I think we could say goodbye to Comrade Snag there. see, deals with his business. So this was a very good program this evening. I enjoyed chatting with Comrade Snag. As I said from the very beginning, he's my good friend, he's my buddy, and somebody who, let me see, let me do this now. Uh, this now, yes, it's my friend, he's my buddy, and someone who I know is deeply concerned about the people of the Southern Grenadines and his people in Union Island, and it's definitely traumatic for individuals living on the island, individuals who experienced the passage of Beryl, the young children who experienced roofs being blown off and had to be moving from one location to the other in the height of howling winds. I can't imagine what they went through. But I'll say this, I'll make this point, ladies and gentlemen. Our government has shown its commitment to our people. As I said, in the Thomas back in 2010, where people lost their roofs, the government stepped in and assisted. In 2013, when people's homes were washed away, you may remember that the village of Hollywood in Cumberland was built as a result, came out as a result of the destruction wrought to people's property back then. The government stepped in and restored the lives of individuals who lost their homes, Vincentians who lost their homes. We see the homes in Orange Hill. There are two different locations in Orange Hill. There's Sandy Bay below the school, where the government built almost 70 homes for individuals whose lives were affected, whose properties were destroyed because of the volcanic eruption. Now, Union Island is on a much larger scale because there are hundreds of homes, possibly thousands of homes to be rebuilt, and as well state infrastructure. And the Prime Minister, the head of government, has given the commitment to Vincentians that we will rebuild. And the truth is that Vincentians at home and abroad, Vincentians on every island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, can rest confidently in that assurance that the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, led by Dr. Gonzalez, the Prime Minister, will put resources to work for the people of our country. I don't think there's any question about that. I don't think there's any doubt in anyone's mind where that is concerned. But let me echo what Comrade Snag said. You are on another island that wasn't as badly damaged. And you have the space, you have the capacity, you are able to assist, whether it is by taking in a family or members, you are able to assist in offering, whether it's mattress or whatever it is, your food stuff, clothing. Now is your time to be a brother's keeper. Now is the time to really show that spirit of togetherness. You know, I saw Vincentians bind together, come together during the volcano, and just moved, moved, doing things for each other. And I have no doubt that that same spirit is alive today as we come out of the devastation of that is left or has been left by Hurricane Beryl. So I want to encourage you, if you are able to, please assist. Now, where I'm here, I'm also closely monitoring the UK elections. And for those of you who might be interested, it is forecasted that tomorrow, widely forecasted that tomorrow, the UK would be announced, or it is expected that Sir Keir Starmer, the leader of the UK Labour Party, would be elected Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, defeating Rishi Sunak's Conservative Party. Exit polls show that predict 410 seats for the Labour Party, 100 and something for there's there's 636 seats or thereabout in the Parliament, and Labour is expected to get 410 of them. A massive landslide. Exactly what that would mean for specifically immigrants, Caribbean people, that's another story. Now, if you remember, a few months ago, very early in the program, I had my good friend James Snyder on the program. I look to get him back sometime after the elections, and we could talk about the policies of the UK Labour Party and what can be expected. So you can look forward to that program sometime in the future. For those of you who want to migrate to the UK, whether it is to study, to work as nurses, to join the armed forces, whatever it is, this is important for you. All right. So you'll want to stay tuned for that program. And with that, we've come to the end of the program. Let me thank Star Radio for carrying this program tonight that featured Director of Grenadines Affairs, Edwin Snagg. Those of you who joined on Star, thank you so much for joining this evening. It was really a pleasure having you. And for those regular viewers, thank you so much for logging as always. Don't forget, you can follow the program on YouTube or on Facebook. It's every Thursday night at 9 o'clock. For those of you who didn't know before tonight that it happens. So go to YouTube. The show is called Up Late with Sion Marshall. And this is specifically for the Star Radio listeners who might be hearing this for the first time. Up Late with Sion Marshall. It's on YouTube. It's on Facebook. Just search that. Like it, follow, so that you can get the notification. It airs every Thursday night at 9 o'clock your time. Of course, that's 2 o'clock my time up here. But I'm here every Thursday night to inform, entertain, educate, discuss with guests, and sometimes I'm here alone, matters of national importance. So until next week, Thursday night, let me say good night to everybody who logged on. I didn't do that earlier o'clock because I brought in Snaggy, but I see Patricia and Maxwell, my partner Tajo. Tajo, you owe me a program. Ansel Walton from Rosal. Big up Sally. I saw some of his lives during the hurricane. So big up Sally for me, please. Junior, Phyllis, Latoya, my cousin Tika, Ansel. I said Ansel already. My partner from Barracks Day, Rochelle, all of you who logged on, and I'm only mentioning those who have actually said good night. So if I didn't call a name, it's because I don't know who you are, that you're on, because you didn't interact with the page. So good night to all of you who logged on. I know my sister Gemma ain't logging on tonight because she's not available, but hopefully more of the family members are on as well. So thank you so much for being a part of this evening's program. Tonight we discussed the destruction wrought by Hurricane Beryl on the Southern Grenadines. Of course, even as we lick our wounds metaphorically, we also remember and keep in our prayers our brothers and sisters from Grenada who also suffered significant damage. Until next Thursday evening, 9 o'clock, when I'm back with you with another edition of Up Late with Sion Marshall. This is your host saying, have yourself a very good evening.
Of Canawan, Nairo, and Union Island from the air. And Union Island, of course, is the most devastating spectacle. Of course, Myro is very bad too. And and so too is Canoan and Palm Island. But Union is a field of devastation. There's only the odd building that is not severely damaged or destroyed. The roofs of all these buildings are gone. The building of the terminal of the airport, the roof is gone and the building itself compromised. The hospital, other state facilities, the schools. There is a sense of shock among people, yet at the same time, a determination to rebuild. Some, of course, in the interim, many would like to leave, and some came out today on the fast ferry and also on Necre Express. I'd asked that they take out persons. We're going to build it back. We're going to build it back better and stronger. We're going to turn this terrible setback into an advance. Some people, of course, a significant number of people saying they're not going anywhere, just staying there. They build it back here. I met a woman and two of her children and said that, go where? I'm not going anywhere, I'm building back here. So that there's a mixed set of responses. There are a couple of people said it's too much for their psychological makeup. There's a lot of trauma on the faces of men, women and children are strained and anxious. It's an extraordinarily difficult time. We have to clean up. Tomorrow I'll send back vessels again to transport persons out and to bring more supplies. But everywhere I go, I'm optimistic with people about building back. They say we're almost near universal. They say we're dependent on you. We're relying on you. And the isolation complicates the problem. But we have to get the cleanup going, and we have to begin to mobilize the builders. We have to put tents for people to stay in while they do the construction, and it is going to demand a lot of resources. Building back here is huge. And if you notice, most of the houses, big houses, people had spent a lot of money on building these houses, both had in different walks of life, different professions, occupations, and within a 45-minute period, an hour, it's gone. It is a huge challenge demanding solidarity from all our people and from our allies in the region and in the international community. But I'm sure that we will get there. We will rebuild, and we will rebuild stronger, more resilient.